but deep roots he surely hits. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Gurudev, Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Such a genius, erudite, amazing books he did create. Such a genius, erudite, amazing books he did create. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. This is our Gurudev. Tirelessly travel, just on mission he propagates. Tirelessly travel, just on mission he propagates. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Gurudev, Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Krishna East or Krishna West, Bhakti Sheti appreciates. Krishna East or Krishna West, Bhakti Sheti appreciates. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Afflicted souls he liberates, for the kids he's a comrade. Afflicted souls he liberates, for the kids he's a comrade. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Gurudev, this is our Gurudev. Sincere servant of Prabhupada, Hanuman he emulates. Sincere servant of Prabhupada, Hanuman he emulates. Gurudev, oh Gurudev, is our Guru Dev. Sweet and compassionate, this is our Guru Dev.
That's very nice. Wow, thank you very much. Oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. All right.
Can I welcome you?
Yeah, you can welcome me.
Hare Krishna to everyone.
Who gets a haircut tonight? Maybe you're supposed to get the haircut is here?
Oh yeah. That's on the way. Ronald's son. So I'm very happy to and very excited and a little bit nervous. As you can see, we are still trying to put together things in working place. And but I want to invite you and welcome you to ISKCON of Sacramento on behalf His Holiness Sri Krishna Maharaj has been visiting Sacramento area for last 4 to 5 years, and he's been continuously guiding us through his experience in ISKCON, like we just heard in the song. Like he's been there with ISKCON for more than 40 plus years.
Almost 50 years.
50 years, almost 50 years. And he's first initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1971. And he got second initiation after that, and since then he's tirelessly helping. We have been very fortunate to get his personal association in the last 5 years, especially putting together the book distribution team and bringing the devotees together, and with results in like we are together now. Some of you know that we were in different team and ISKCON was different, but we all merged and we are all one strong team working for ISKCON of Sacramento, and it's all goes to the Krishna Maharaj and others associations and Visheshika Prabhu's guidance. So again, welcome him for the today's discourse. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Yes, I use cartels. Little cartels. Okay. No, this is fine. When's the baby coming? Not you, Aniruddha.
Let me find out.
Anyway, it's all right. Anyway, we'll speak first, and then we'll have the haircutting ceremony. We can cut your secret. So tonight, actually, we'll speak a little bit about Lord Jagannath and the origin of the deity of Lord Jagannath. And because next week I understand there's the big Rath Yatra in Los Angeles that some of you may be going to or may not be going to. That's all right. At least we should hear this nice story about Lord Jagannath. Why Lord Jagannath looks like he does. Not only we're going to talk about the exoteric reason, that means the external reason, but actually Lord Jagannath's internal reason, his personal reason for looking like that. You understand? Just like we were talking yesterday about everything the Lord does is basically for his own personal reasons, for enjoyment. Remember? Talked about that? Remember that? Okay, good. So, now we'll talk about, anyway, first we'll chant Jai Jagannath. Does everyone know Jai Jagannath? No. It goes Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai. Everybody knows that? Okay. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jagannath Swami, Anapata Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Bhagatu me. Jagannath Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Bhagatu me. Jagannath Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Bhagatu me. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jagannath Swami, Anapata Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Bhagatu me. Jagannath Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Bhagatu me. Jagannath Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Nayana Pata Swami, Bhagatu me. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Jagannath Jai Baladev Jai Subhadra Jai Baladev Jai Subhadra Happy Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paramahansa Osutela Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Vidas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaura Sayam Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Chiranam Ki Jai Jagadava Swami Ki Jai Madhumai Ki Jai Shrimati Vasudev Ki Jai Samrita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Om Gana Timananda Shah Gananjana Shlaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shikabay Namaha. So I told everybody that I would tell the story about how or why Lord Jagannath looks like Lord Jagannath. Since Rath Yatra is coming up, actually the Rath Yatra in Puri was before this. But we have Rath Yatras all around the world, and Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to have Rath Yatras all over the world, and Prabhupada was doing his first Rath Yatra when he was like 5 or 6. Have you done Rath Yatra yet? Just see. I'm embarrassed. So, Prabhupada was doing a Rath Yatra in the streets of Calcutta. He demanded that his father get a Rath card. And his father somehow found a card and they fixed it up and everything like that. And Prabhupada had all of his friends and arranged to do the Rath Yatra. And they had his mother and all the ladies arranged to make prasadam distribution in the streets of Calcutta. So Rath Yatra is very important, not only for Srila Prabhupada, but for our whole disciplic succession coming after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent the final days in his pastimes in Jagannath Puri. About 18 years he spent in Jagannath Puri, the final days, and he left this world in Jagannath Puri. Of course, he didn't leave this world entering into Lord Jagannath's temple, but into the Tota Gopinath temple. Anyone here been to Jagannath Puri? 1, two, three, four. Four people have been to Jagannath Puri. I've been there quite a few times. And this Tota Gopinath temple is one of the only temples I've ever seen where Krishna is sitting down. You know why he's sitting down, not even? I'll tell you the story. It has nothing to do with Lord Jagannath, but it's just an interesting story. That this Tota Gopinath deity was being taken care of by Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. And Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was getting old. And he's in, let's say, an expansion of Srimati Radharani. And so as he was getting old, guess what? You know, it's hard to take care of a big deity. This deity is quite big. It's like, or he is like 7 feet tall when he was standing. And so he was thinking, that is, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami was thinking, how am I going to take care of this deity? Because he's so tall and I'm getting older. You know, when you get older, you get smaller. When you're younger, you get bigger. When you're older, you get smaller. It's nice, isn't it? It's like a... Anyway, it's interesting. A human being walks on 4 legs when he's young, 2 legs when he's in the middle of his life, and then 3 because he has a cane when he gets older. There's this riddle, you know, what is the living entity that walks on 4 legs when he's young, 2 legs in his middle of his life, and 3 legs when he's older? And that's a human being. So anyway, so he was getting old. Of course, he has a spiritual body. This was all a pastime. And he was wondering, how am I going to take care of the deity? And then he woke up one morning, what did he find? The deity was sitting. And this is a beautiful big deity. Beautiful Tota Gopinath deity. And he's playing the flute. And when you go to see this deity, if you give the pujari 100 rupees, he'll show you where Lord Chaitanya disappeared into the thigh of the deity. Anyone has seen that when they've gone to Jagannath Puri? Yeah. 100 rupees per person. Not for your whole group. Because I remember I tried it, 100 rupees. No, he said, per person. You got 10 people here. 1,000 rupees. So that's India. Anyway, so another time in Jagannath Puri, I tried to get into the temple, the Gundaja temple. I knew they wouldn't let me in the Puri temple. And I said to the pujari or the pandit, how much will it cost for me to get into the temple? I thought I could buy my way in. And he said, give me the money now and then we'll let you in the temple. I said, no, you let me in first and I'll pay you later. And he said, no, give me the money and I'll tell you about Lord Jagannath. I said, I don't want to hear about Lord Jagannath. I want to get in the temple. He said, no, no milechas allowed. And then I went to another temple. This is the temple of Shakshi Gopal. Anyone's been to the temple of Shakshi Gopal? Some of you have been to the temple. Just one of you have been to the temple. Shakshi Gopal. Shakshi Gopal is the deity that walked all the way across India to witness the marriage promise of an older Brahmin to a younger Brahmin. I think most of you know that story. And so I went to the gates of that temple and I said, well, actually I had 2 devotees with me who were from India. And one of them said, they asked you, where you're from. And one said, I am a Brahmin from Gujarat. Okay, you can go in. And the other one said, I am a Brahmin from Mayapur. He said, okay, you can go in. And they said, what about you? And I said, I'm a Brahmin from New York. And they said, no, you're not allowed to. And then I said, you know, Lord Jagannath's not going to, Shakshi Gopal's not going to be very happy with you for this. And they ignored me. And then all of a sudden there was a lightning bolt that hit like 50 feet away from the temple. Oh, everything was shaking. I said, look, let me in. Or you're going to be in big trouble here. They still didn't let me in. Somehow or other, they had this. When Prabhupada was in Jagannath Puri, he would give some lectures and he would say, let these devotees in. He's Jagannath, he's not Purinath. He's not an ethnic deity. He's the Lord of the universe, Jagannath. So anyway, so here's the story of Lord Jagannath. Actually, I spent a lot of time in before he bathed in the ocean. Prabhupada really liked the devotees to bathe in the ocean there, and Lord Chaitanya bathed in the ocean. The ocean was a holy place. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared it to be a holy place after he bathed who in the ocean? Haridas Thakur. He said, from now on, this ocean is a holy place. So he bathed Haridas Thakur in the ocean. So here's the story. Here's the external story about Lord Jagannath, then I'll tell the internal story. Once upon a time, as all stories go, there was a king, and his name was Indraduya. And this king was entertaining Brahmins. And one Brahmin came to the king, and he started to tell the story about this beautiful deity named Nila Madhava. And so when the king heard that story, he says, I gotta find out where that deity is. So he sent all of his associate brahmanas out to find Nila Madhava. They went all over, and really none of them could find him. And they came back, except for one of the brahmanas stayed out. His name was Vijapati. And Vijapati was traveling all over. And finally, he came to this kingdom of the Shavaras. Shavaras means the people who keep pigs. It's a very, it's a militia caste. So anyway, you find that even today, even in North India, you find like castes of people who are pig eaters. And not pig eaters, but pig keepers. I guess they eat pigs too. And you actually have like, you also have like people who take care of snakes. There's whole villages. Like if you go around Govardhan, there's actually a village of people who take care of snakes. You understand? It's very interesting. And they're the ones who come out with the little snakes, the cobras in the baskets, and try to get you to give money. But it's not nice actually. So, this Vijapati, he was staying with he went into a village of Shavaras, people who keep pigs. And the head of the pig-keeping clan wasn't there. His name was Vishwashu. But his daughter was there. His daughter had a very nice spiritual name. Her name was, anyone know? Lalita. Her name was Lalita. And so Lalita took care of this Vijapati until her father came back. And the father instructed his daughter to take care of this guy nicely. He's from a higher caste. And eventually, one thing led to the other, and they got married. And that type of marriage is all right. There's two types of marriages in the Vedic culture. One is called, two types of mixed marriages. One is called pratilom, and the other one's called anulom. Anulom means where a higher caste man marries a lower caste lady, and pratilom is the opposite. The lady is a higher caste, and the man is a lower caste. And that's really not a good idea. You understand? Because then the lady is much more intelligent than the husband, and the poor husband, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to read or write, and his wife is an intellectual. Doesn't work out too well. So basically it's better to have the lady of a lower caste. So in any way, this type of marriage is called anulom, in which Vijapati was married to Lalita. So they got married, and they didn't always live happily ever after. So then Vijapati noticed that his father-in-law was going away some nights, and he was coming back smelling like sandalwood pulp. Camphor, musk, and sandalwood pulp. And he was wondering, what's happening? He asked his wife, he said, Priya. That's how husband's supposed to call his wife Priya. Did you know that? Not supposed to. It's not nice. They use the name, but the wife's not supposed to use the husband's name. The husband's supposed to be Swami. Did you know that? Yes. So, but it's actually very sweet. With the husband calls the wife Priya, then he respects her. But if he says, hey, Devi Dasi, come here. Where's the food?
That's realistic, man.
Not realistic.
India they say like your son's name or like so and so's mother.
Yeah.
Like the food.
That's true, that's true. Well, yeah, actually when you're angry with someone, you refer to them in terms of another relationship.
Right.
Like if you're angry with your son, you'll say to your wife, your son did this.
Yes. That happens in your son.
Yeah, your son did this. No longer my son, it's your son. And if he does something well, oh, my son. Or our son. So, anyway, so Vijapati wanted to know what was happening. Father-in-law was going away all the time. And eventually, she didn't keep a secret. Just like in ISKCON, as soon as someone finds out something, the whole ISKCON knows about it within 10 minutes. Especially bad news travels very fast.
WhatsApp is very popular.
Yeah. Very, very fast bad news. So anyway, she tells him that my father is actually going up and he's worshiping Nila Madhava. And Vijapati gets really ecstatic and says, oh wow, I have to go see this Nila Madhava. And so he tells his wife, he says, Priya, tell your father, I have to go see him, just nag him. So the father is generally manipulated by a daughter, right? Yeah, the daughter knows how to manipulate the father. I can tell you girls how to manipulate your father. It's pretty easy. Just a few little tears. And you have to use the right language. You have to say, Daddy. Yeah. Just like when I want something from my mother, I just call her Mommy. I don't call Mom. And she goes, oh, my son. So there's a way to manipulate. So she was manipulating her father. And the father finally agreed, okay, I'll take your husband up, Vijapati, to see Nila Madhava, but he has to be blindfolded. So he can't discover where Nila Madhava is. So, being a good wife, she arranged to sow some mustard seeds into his dhoti or cloth. And she had a little hole where the mustard seeds were, so they would come out one by one. And so later on, the whole idea was that when it rained, there would be a trail of mustard plants all the way up to where the deity was, and so they could discover where the deity was. So, anyway, so Vijapati went to see the deity, and he started dancing in ecstasy. Wow, this is the most beautiful deity I've ever seen. And he was taking darshan, and there was a lake right next to where the deity was, and there was a crow on a tree. The crow, Vijapati noticed, fell from the tree and fell into the lake. And the crow died. But the crow came out in a four-armed form. And if I couldn't, the airplane came and took him back to Godhead. So when Vijapati saw that, he said, well, I'm going to climb this tree and do the same thing. So he got ready to do that, and then he heard a voice from the sky saying, no. This is not your duty. You have to tell the king, what's going on. Okay. So then he put down everything, climbed down from the tree, and then he went back to home, went to see his wife with his father-in-law. But his father-in-law was getting more and more upset with him. The reason he was getting upset is that the Shabara, Vishvasu, had a dream, and in that dream, Lord Nila Madhava told him, I want to go to King Indradunya. And this Shabara, he was so attached to taking care of, which is good. He said, I'm not going to let Vijapati tell the king that Nila Madhava is there. So he tied him up. But then, Vijapati's good wife, Lalita, came upon the scene again, and she said, Daddy, let him go. And he let him go. And Vijapati went back to the king, ran back to the king after a while, and he told the king about what he had seen. The king came back with all of his men and everything like that, and they saw the mustard plants. They climbed up, and they didn't see the deity. And they were wondering, where's the deity? And then the king understood or thought that Vishvasu, the Shabara, had taken the deity and hidden the deity, so he imprisoned the Shabara, Vishvasu. But then he heard a voice from the sky saying, release this Shabara. You should go and construct a temple on the Nila hill, and I will appear as Daru Brahman. What does Daru Brahman mean? A wooden Brahman. And in this form you should worship me. You will not see me as Nila Madhava. So the king goes down, he builds a temple in Nila Kandara hill, and the temple was so big, it was 60 cubits under the earth and 120 cubits. You know what a cubit is? A cubit is usually measured like this. You understand? That was how they used to measure. Because people were taller, so it was actually a little bit bigger than this. So it was 60 cubits underneath the ground and 120 cubits. That's quite a large thing, isn't it? How many feet is it from here to here? Probably about a foot and a few inches, right? So it's like 120 feet in the air. Of course, this temple that you see now in Jagannath Puri is not the original temple. It's been rebuilt several times since this whole story, because this was in a different yuga. So the king put a kalash on top of the temple and a chakra, and he wanted Lord Brahma to come down to consecrate the temple. That means to bless it. Just like sannyasis go to different places to bless it, so to bless the temple. And Lord Brahma, he actually said, I can't bless the temple. The temple's already blessed because it's in a holy place. You can't bless a holy place because a holy place is a holy place. Like saying to me, would you like to go to the Ganges River and bless the Ganges River? Who could bless the Ganges River? That's a little ridiculous. But while he was away, the king was away, there was a problem. Because the time experienced in Lord Brahma's abode is completely different than the time experienced on the earth planet. You know that story when Lord Brahma stole the calves and the cowherd boys? It was an instant, just like that much. How long was it on earth? 1 year. So this king Indradyumna was up there for a little while. It was so many years that everybody forgot about him. Actually, 2 kings took over after that. His name was Suryadev and Galamadeva. And Galamadeva, in the meantime, while Indradyumna was up there on the heavenly planets with Lord Brahma, he claimed that the temple was his, that he had constructed the temple. So then Indradyumna, Maharaj, comes down and he sees this temple's there, but this Galamadeva had claimed that it was his. And so they needed a witness who could tell them which was the rightful proprietor or rightful constructor of the temple. And that witness happened to be a crow. He was this famous Bhushandi crow who always chants, what does the Bhushandi crow chant all the time? Ram Nam. This is a crow that always goes Ram, 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 Ram. It's from Fiji. Not really. In Fiji they always Ram Bhaktas. So the crow actually had seen all this, and he said King Indradyumna had constructed the temple, and therefore they took Galamadeva and banned him from the temple. He had to reside outside the temple. So then Indradyumna Maharaj was thinking, what am I going to do? And Lord Brahma finally put a flag on top of the temple, but he couldn't consecrate the temple. So he decided, the Lord has not appeared, I'm going to leave my body. So he began to fast until death. This is actually a bona fide way of a Vaishnava leaving the body if they want to leave the body. Usually you shouldn't do this, but if a devotee has a terminal illness sometimes, like cancer, they can fast until they leave the body. I was with some devotees who actually did that. So, but the Lord, that is Krishna, came to the king in the middle of the night while the king was sleeping and said to the king, "Don't be anxious, I will come floating in from the sea in the wooden form, and you're supposed to have this wooden form carved. And the way you'll know it's actually the right piece of wood, it'll have a conch, a disc, a club, and a lotus on it." So, many days later, this wooden log came floating to the shore. And nobody could move it. What did they say? All the king's horses and all the king's men could move Daru Brahman again. So, so they couldn't move the log. So finally, the king was instructed by Lord Jagannath in a dream. He said, "You should have my servant Vishvasu and Vijapati come, put me on a golden chariot and drive me to the temple." So the king did that, and they brought this log into the temple, and Lord Brahma began to perform a sacrifice, and there was a deity of Lord Nrsingadev installed at the present time. But then they were wondering how to carve the deity. So the king was thinking, how can I carve this deity? And then every time they brought in a sculptor, everything would break. You know, they had the different tools, like the hammer and chisel, you know, and it broke. Finally, this ancient sculptor came in. And some of the Puranas, it says he was Krishna himself, and other Puranas, it says it was Vishvakarma, the architect of the demigods. I mean, there's two different versions of the story. So he comes in and says, "I will carve in 21 days. Just don't disturb me." And the king said, "I won't disturb you." And the artist, sculptor said, "If you disturb me, I'm leaving." So for about 14 days they were hearing chip, 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 chip. And then after that there was no noise. And then the king was thinking, what am I going to do? There's no noise. Maybe the sculptor hurt himself. And the king thought, no, I can't disturb the sculptor. But then the king's wife, the queen, began to say, "You got to go in there. Come on. How can you leave that old man in there?" She began to nag. And she nagged and nagged, and finally the king agreed. And he went in, and by force he opened the door. And then he saw 3 forms of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra there. And he saw that their fingers and toes, well, their body was unfinished. Like Subhadra doesn't even have arms. And he was thinking, oh my God, I actually committed a great offense. And now the deity is not finished. So again, he decided to fast until he died. Because he felt so guilty about the offense that he thought he had committed. And then in the night, he had a dream, and Lord Jagannath appeared to him, and he said, "This is my pastime. I want to look like that. I have no material hands and no material senses. So don't think you can see my hands and senses. But this is my pastimes. And those devotees who actually love me will see me as Shyama Shundara, holding the flute and dancing with the gopis." So from now on, the descendants of Vishvasu, Lord Jagannath said, should serve me generation after generation. They should be called Dayatas. In other words, they're basically the cooks. And the descendants of Vijapati, born from his wife, his Brahmin wife, should perform the deity worship. And the descendants from Lalita, the Shabara wife, because Vijapati had 2 wives at least, should cook my food. They should be known as Suryayas, like that. And then the king was very pleased, and he said, "Lord Jagannath, I want 3 benedictions." And Lord Jagannath said, "Okay, I'll give you 3 benedictions." So one benediction the king asked for, he said, let the doors to your temple only be closed for 3 hours of the day. So during the rest of the time, everybody can come and see you and take darshan. And then Lord Jagannath said, okay. And then another one he asked for, he said, may your fingers always be wet. Why do you say that? So you should be eating all day long. So actually, generally there's something like 54 offerings a day offered to Lord Jagannath in the temple. There's an interesting story with Bhakti Vinod Thakur and the king who was in charge of the temple, because the king was actually stealing from the hundi one time and taking the money for himself. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur caught him, and he said, therefore you have to arrange for all the food for Lord Jagannath out of your private treasury. And the king became very poor after some time, and he decided to kill Bhakti Vinod Thakur. But not in an ordinary way. He decided to have a fire sacrifice to kill Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So for a whole month, they were offering different things into the fire. You know, swaha, mrichu, mrichu, swaha, mrichu, you know. And so after that month was over, the king's own son died instead of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So you shouldn't steal from the day. No one should take from the hundi. We've seen it some. Actually, in the Tirupati, they actually have all the people counting the money from the hundi on display. As you enter into the temple, there's these glass windows. Anyone's been there? You've seen that, right? And you see them counting all the money. And people put gold bars into the hundi. Wow. The hundis are so big. There's an interesting story about one of the hundis in Jagannath Puri, is that once upon a time, there was a man who wanted to give gold, the gold bar, to the deities. So he wanted his son to offer the gold bar. So he held his son over the hundi. And his son fell into the hundi. And he said to the pujaris, what? Can I have my son back? And the pujari said, no, you offer to Lord Jagannath, you offer to Balaji, that's it, you know. You can't take back. And so, yeah, no refunds. No change. And so that son became a pujari and served the deities for the rest of his life. So you got to be careful when you go to Tirupati. You can take Aniruddha, no? Drop him in the hundi. You're going to get you too upset, you just switch.
But that's good actually, that's a promotion.
That's a promotion. It'll be a Brahmin. So anyway, the final thing he asked for was really interesting. He said, the king said to Lord Jagannath, the final thing I'm asking for is that I will have no children. Now why would he ask for something like that? Because generally in India, everyone wants sons. And if you go to holy places, you'll find basically every holy tree has all these things tied on it. You know, little bells and ribbons and everything. First time I went to India, I was thinking, why are they doing this to the poor tree? Because the ladies go up to the tree, even at Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance place, and tie all these things on the tree. It's interesting. And so, anyway, so they're asking for a son or a daughter. Putra, putri. And so he was asking for no son or no daughter because in many cases in India, if someone has a child and they're in charge of a temple, the child claims proprietorship over the temple. In Vrindavan especially, you have these, some of the Goswami families, you may have heard of. And I mean, they're generally good devotees, that's not for me to criticize. But many of them have actually sold portions of the temple or temple property for their children. Like if you go to Loy Bazaar, anyone's been to Loy Bazaar? Prabhupada jokingly one time said that Krishna is everywhere in Vrindavan, but he's not in Loy Bazaar. The reason for that is that the devotees would generally spend most of their time in Loy Bazaar. So Prabhupada was very upset. What Bazaar, of course, is the shopping place where you buy your saris and your Didi jewelry and your dhotis and yeah, all sorts of stuff you buy. And I just remember getting stuck there one day. I was very frustrated. So anyway, so the king didn't want his descendants claiming proprietorship over the temple. And to this day, his descendants don't, he has no descendants, so there's no one to claim proprietorship over the temple. It's one of the main holy places in India, Jagannath Puri. So that's the external reason for why Lord Jagannath looks like Lord Jagannath. But as I mentioned the other day, everything that Krishna does has an internal or a personal reason for it too. So there's a very interesting story told about Krishna's personal reason why he looks like that. And this story is illustrated, or this point is illustrated very nicely by the following narration. Once upon a time, when Krishna was in Dwarka with his wives are actually expansions of the gopis in Vrindavan. But his wives wanted to hear about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. They were naturally very curious. They said, what did our husband do when he was with his girlfriends? That's natural curiosity. Because sometimes at night when Krishna was sleeping, he would cry out the names of his girlfriends. You understand? He would say, Radha, Lalita, Vishaka. And his wife would be right there, Satyabhama or Rukmini, or the other wives would be right next to him. They'd be hearing the names of these girls. And you ladies can imagine if your husband did that at night. He'd probably just like slap him and say, who is this Lalita? So especially if you have a wife like Satyabhama who is naturally like left-handed, oppositional sometimes. And so Krishna's wives really wanted to find out, what was this all about? So naturally they went to the one person who they knew, the lady who they knew, who was there both in Vrindavan and Dwarka. Who was that? What? Rohini, you're right. Rohini, because she was whose mother? Balaram's mother. Pretty good. And who was her husband? And let him answer, no one else. Very good. You're really intelligent. You should be proud of him, So anyway, so Vasudeva was her husband, and she was there. How many wives did Vasudeva have? No.
17.
What?
17?
16.
16.
He had 16 wives. That was allowed at that time. Now, can you think, who was the person who had 10 million wives? Huh? No, Rama had one wife. What? Who was the person in the Bhagavatam who had 10 million wives? No. Nobody knows. Chitraketu. Chitraketu, he had 10 million. So anyway, Rohini was approached by Krishna's wives, and she said that yes, Hare Krishna, yes, I will tell you, but Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra can't hear this whole narration. Because if they hear the narration, they'll be so disturbed. They're going to want to go. At least Krishna and Balaram will want to go back to Vrindavan. So she said, we have to do it secretly. We'll lock the door of this room, and the person who will guard the room is Subhadra. So she stationed Subhadra outside of this room. And she said to Subhadra, don't listen. What is the result if you tell someone not to listen to something? It makes them very curious. This is not for you. I remember, in my own childhood, is another thing I did in my childhood, that I was told sometimes by my parents they want to have private conversations that are not for you, the children, to hear. So what I did is I put a hidden microphone in my parents' room. And I was able to hear everything he said. See, he's good compared to me. And you shouldn't complain. You know, I was like a child out of hell for my parents. So, so anyway, so Rohini agreed to do that, and Subhadra was stationed at the door, and she was listening. And after hearing about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis and the other residents of Vrindavan, the loving exchanges, intimate loving exchanges, she became in so much ecstasy that her arms shrunk up into her body. And her eyes opened wide, like that. And the interesting thing about spiritual bodies, they're not like our material bodies. You know, I can exhibit some signs of happiness. You know, I can open my eyes this wide. That's about it. You know, I have a limited number of expressions because it's a material body. Tridotted cave, biomucous air, you know, muscles and bones and everything like that. And I'm very limited. But with the spiritual body, like when Lord Chaitanya was present, sometimes all of his limbs would shrink up into his body. And he looked like a tortoise. And other times, the limbs would extend so long that it looked like, basically, you know, like 3 or 4 feet coming out of each arm. And when the devotees chanted Hare Krishna, the limbs would resume their normal feature. So that's a spiritual body. Because Krishna has a spiritual body, he could also have all these different avatars. When we're talking about Lord Nrsingadev, it's not that Lord Nrsingadev is a different person or even is a different body than Lord Krishna. It's the same person. He just looks like that because he's in a different mood. Krishna. Okay. So, anyway, Subhadra looked like that. Balaram came by and, wow, symptoms of ecstasy there. Balaram came by, and Balaram put his ear to the door and heard the same thing, and he looked like the deity of Baladev. And the same thing happened to Lord Jagannath. And that's why they look like that. So the reason Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra look like that is not really because of the unfinished deity story. That's an external thing. But the reason is that Krishna wanted to look like that. You know, he asked for the why, not the how. The how explanation is unfinished deity. The why is Krishna wanted to, because that's the way Krishna feels, feeling separation from the residents of Vrindavan. Lord Jagannath is what we call the Vipralamba deity. Vipralamba means separation. You understand? So Lord Jagannath is thinking, when can I go back to Vrindavan and see my beloved devotees, especially the gopis? And during the Ratha Yatra, it's symbolic of bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. And the Ratha Yatra is very interesting because it also involves the wives of Krishna in Dwarka. You know this story? At the beginning of the whole Ratha Yatra process, there's this thing called Snana Yatra. You heard Snana Yatra? It's the bathing of Lord Jagannath. And then Lord Jagannath's supposed to get sick. But he's not actually sick, he's pretending to be sick. So he can spend some vacation time with his wife. I mean, just like, I'm sure, well, in Fiji we do this all the time. When a man doesn't want to go to work, he goes to one of the doctors that's a devotee. You seen this in Fiji? Because we have many doctor devotees. And he says to the doctor devotee, write me a note that I'm sick. And the doctor, you know, naturally, Rupanuga or some of the other doctors, we have so many doctor devotees there. They write a note, and the person doesn't have to go to work.
We have a doctor devotee here also.
Oh, really?
But she can't write the note. She can write note.
Well, here in America, you get in trouble. If you write a note, the person's not sick.
Oh, is it?
But in Fiji, you can get away with any damn thing. So anyway, so Lord Jagannath actually just wanted to have some quality time with his family, with his wife. But then when he's with his wife, she reminds him of his girlfriend. Because as I mentioned before, the wives are expansions of Krishna's girlfriends, right? Thank you. And then he thinks, I gotta go see my girlfriends. So he tells his wife, the goddess of fortune, his wives and Dwarka, I need to go for a little walk. I'll be right back in a few minutes, Priya. And so that's the Rath Yatra. But he's actually not going for a little walk. He's going to see his girlfriends in Vrindavan. And that's the Gundicha temple. You understand? The Gundicha temple represents Vrindavan. And so the gopis drag him with these ropes to Gundicha, which is representing Vrindavan. And he becomes, Lord Jagannath has a different mood at Gundicha. He becomes very playful. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he and his associates participated in the Rath Yatra, when they went to Gundicha, they became like little kids. They would fight with each other in the different sarovars, the kunds there. And they would have water fights and splash water on each other's faces. So it became like Vrindavan, very intimate relationships. So then after 5 days, Krishna's wife, or wives, become very upset and understand their husband's not coming back so soon. So they send their associates and they go to attack Lord Jagannath's associates. You've heard about this before? This is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the devotees generally, they do this as a drama every year. And then they attack, and they start to beat Lord Jagannath's associates with sticks and everything like that. And Lord Jagannath still doesn't go back. And finally, after, I think it was 9 days, Lord Jagannath does go back, and that's the return yatra to the Jagannath Puri temple. And that's really what Rath Yatra is. It's a going to Vrindavan. And anyone who helps with Rath Yatra is actually assisting the gopis in Lord Jagannath going to Vrindavan. A very wonderful story. And Lord Jagannath looks like that because he's feeling so much separation from Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya spent the final years of his pastimes in Jagannath Puri in that mood of separation from Vrindavan. Of course, Lord Chaitanya was in the mood of Srimati Radharani, feeling separation from Lord Jagannath, from Krishna in Vrindavan. Jugayitam nivishena chakshusha parashayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam. Govinda vidahena me. So, that's the end of tonight's discussion. So any questions or comments? Yes?
So, is that true that the Snan Yatra is the day on which the Lord Jagannath manifested?
Manifested?
Or like when the deities were...
I have not read that.
But I heard recently
I'd have to see the Shastric reference to that.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people have Shastric references, but... And during the time, the Amavas, when Lord Jagannath is apparently sick, they actually renovate the deities. And some years, they replace the deity. You know, every few years, I forget how many years it is, they replace the deity.
12.
The 12 years.
In Jagannath.
Yeah, Jagannath Puri did replace the deity. Every year the cart is made new from special wood. The Pandus have to find special wood to make the cart, and every year it's made afresh. Wow.
I think it's there in the Udiya books. The books in the Udiya,
Yeah.
they have there in that reference. I don't know how.
Yeah, that information is there, but I'd have to see the Shastric reference.
Yeah.
How often, like that, or when Lord Jagannath actually appears. So, anyway, so we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, hopefully, and we worship Lord Jagannath. And Prabhupada wanted Rath Yatras all over the world, and that's what's happening right now. The Rath Yatra. The first Rath Yatra was just in San Francisco, was done on the back of a pickup truck or a flatbed truck. So, any other questions or comments before we do the hair cutting? Yes? Why did, you have to be louder because they're talking. Why did Lord Nilamadeva disappear? Because Lord Nilamadeva wanted to evoke the mood of separation from the king, so that the king would be very enthusiastic to allow him to appear as Lord Jagannath. Because if Lord Nilamadeva hadn't disappeared, this whole pastime wouldn't have happened. Then the king would have taken him down and installed him in a temple, and that would have been the end of the story. And Lord Jagannath would have not been able to appear at that particular point. Good question. Yes?
But I completely forgot. The way this is something, some connection with Narad Muni also requesting Krishna to show the same form.
There's another story. Yeah, there's several stories about Lord Jagannath's appearance like that. There's another story that Lord Jagannath decided to go back to Vrindavan. Anyway, there's several different stories. There's several different stories that illustrate the same philosophical point.
Especially with the Rath Yatra also, like Krishna fails and Balaram is saying, I promised them, so I cannot go first.
Oh, yeah, there's that story. That was told by Gaur Govinda Maharaj. That story was told by Gaur Govinda Maharaj. I'm familiar with that story. Krishna, here's the story. That Krishna says to Balaram, you have to go back. First of all, he says to Uddhava, you have to go back and tell the gopis I'm coming. And then Uddhava says, I promised them you were coming and you didn't come. They won't believe me. Then he says the same thing to Balaram. Balaram says the same thing. And then Subhadra says, they'll believe me, I'm going. But then Balaram, not wanting Subhadra to go alone, says, I'm going to guard you, and he goes first to Vrindavan, and then Subhadra, and then Jagannath follows. So that's another story. And that story was told by my godbrother Gaur Govinda Maharaj. That's an Orient story. It comes from Orient.
Maharaj, our Rath Yatra, we put Jagannath first.
It shouldn't be. Balaram's supposed to be first.
In San Francisco, it is Jagannath first.
I don't know why they do that. Because, I know they do that in certain places, but the proper procedure is Balaram first. Because Balaram is the servant of Lord Jagannath. He prepares the grounds, the road for Lord Jagannath. Balaram's, I think you can all listen for a second. Balaram serves the Lord as the Lord's seat, the Lord's Brahman thread, the Singhasan in the temple, the Seshanag. So he's the servant of the Lord, so he has to go first. Now, I don't know why some places they do have Balaram go first, some ISKCON parades, and some other places they don't. And don't ask me why they started that.
The Oriya people here, they say, what is this,
I know. I agree with the Oriya people. It's not proper. It's not proper. They should have Balaram first. That's the Shastric point. Balaram should be first, then Subhadra, and then Jagannath. However, I'm not going to tell people what to do. I got enough trouble telling myself what to do.
In Prabhupada's time, was that how it was done, or did he make adjustments?
I don't remember. I've been to several Rath Yatras with Prabhupada. I was in San Francisco with Prabhupada several times. I was in New York. Was New York Rath Yatra? Or Los Angeles Rath Yatra? At that time, I didn't know all these stories or anything like that, so I don't know if I would have noticed.
There was only one card, Maharaj, right? There was no 3 cards.
In San Francisco we had 3 cards. With Prabhupada was dancing in front of the card. There's famous pictures taken during that year when I was there. There were 3 cards. This is in the Golden Gate Park, and we actually went all the way to the beach. Anyway, pretty wonderful. You see a picture of Prabhupada with sandalwood pulp all over his forehead. That was the time I was with Prabhupada at Rath Yatra. And with Jayananda too. Everybody's heard of Jayananda? He was actually, Jayananda was the one who was most instrumental in starting Rath Yatras all over the world. He eventually died from cancer. And even when he was on his deathbed, basically, he was helping to direct the Rath Yatra. He was so dedicated. He passed away in Los Angeles at the time of the blowing of the conch in Mangalarti in the morning. And he's very dear to Prabhupada. Actually, he had gotten money for his medical treatment, and he gave his money to Prabhupada. Amazing devotee. Completely dedicated to Rath Yatra. He basically hardly ever slept. I remember cooking with him in the kitchen one year. And it got to be 8 o'clock at night before a big festival. It wasn't Rath Yatra, it was Lord Chaitanya Festival. And he just stayed up all night cooking the halava and everything like that. And I just collapsed. So he was a great devotee. Very great devotee. Dedicated to Prabhupada. Okay, so should we have the baby sacrifice?
Sacrifice the baby.
We'll make it ISKCON first.
Yeah, just on first. Okay, we're going to have the haircut.
कीर्तन करो ना पहले साथ में अब कैमरा आप कोई जगह दो अपनी फोटो ले लो उसको बंद करो
Okay, Aniruddha, where's your Sika?
वो बना दो वीडियो बना दो